Thursday, January 3rd, 2013. Dinner and Learn with Rabbi Yarden. Topic, the Tanya.
We actually stayed when we were down in the middle.
We've been working our way through the Tanya. Today we're going to embark upon chapter 5, the 5th chapter of the Tanya. So far what we've covered is that there's two souls in a person, not one. That'll explain some of the ideas about why we go through soul to physical feelings all day long. Some points in the day we're so physically drawn, while other points in the day we're so spiritually drawn, and how can that coexist within one person? Are we all mad? We'll explain that we're not. It's just a basicness that since we have two souls, therefore we have two pullings, we have two polars. And therefore we pull from one to the other, we turn, we get pulled, we get yanked. And at points we're very spiritual, at points we're very physical. And at points we have a very fine balance of the two. And this is the two souls within us. Then we wanted the second chapter to explain the godly soul. We started that process in the second, third, and fourth chapters, going into the godly soul, into the 3 intellectual attributes and the 7 faculties given to it, and how it works and how it communicates and its garments, the thought, speech, and action. And now chapter 5 is going to wrap up this picture with the idea, or the question more accurately, how can it be, and this is something we've been toying with at the end of chapter 4, but it's going to take it head on in chapter 5, how can it be that something finite will connect us to something infinite? How can it be something that's limited can help us access the unlimited? How can it be that our thought, which we all know is defining, it's constraining, it's not full, it's not complete, it's not perfect, it's not the answer of all. Our thought has gotten us into a lot of trouble even when we thought it was completely perfect. Our thought was very limiting. How could it be that our thought can access beyond? How can it be that all of a sudden our thought is good? How can it be that our thought is fine? Our thought got us in trouble. Our logic is warped logic. It's us. How can we say we're using our logic to leave ourselves? It's using something we have to get beyond ourselves. Doing good for another. How can we say that doing good for another is true when it's really just for ourselves? It's self-focused. It's for ourselves. If it wasn't for ourselves, we probably wouldn't do it. And yet this is the process of connecting to God. And in chapter 5, he elucidates this idea by saying, this would be a quote in English of what the Tanya says, "This is a wonderful union, like which there is none other, and which has no parallel anywhere in the material world, whereby complete oneness and unity from every side and angle could be attained. That through Torah and mitzvos, which is a logical process and the process of action, one could attain a form of unity with God that one cannot do on their own." So how is that possible? It's just action. It's just things that we could do on our own. We do it all the time. And the idea is that, first of all, when we study Torah and we do mitzvos, we're not doing it for the action we're doing. We're not studying it for the knowledge it contains. We're studying it to connect to God. We're studying it for a purpose in mind. That's why we say blessings on Torah. The purpose of Torah isn't to say, I'm smart and you're not, I'm right and you're not. There are people that study Torah like this and it's a poison. It doesn't help. Torah is meant to be something that we utilize to connect to God. When we get together and we say we're studying, we're having a dinner and learn. The purpose here isn't for us to get together and walk away knowing something. That's an outcome. The purpose here is to re-strengthen our spiritual connection. When we have, some people, for example, Shavuot is a holiday, you stay up all night and you study. Some people have a checklist of what they want to accomplish that night. They want to walk in and they want to be able to cover 10 pages of Talmud and they want to cover 5 pages of Halacha and they're a little bit behind in this and they've never studied that yet and here's a great time, the 5-6 hours to study. Well, that's good in effect, it's also limiting because it's all about them and their pursuit. But when someone goes in and they say, I'm here to study because study is a connection to God, study is a connection to something beyond myself, then they're achieving something beyond themselves through the limitations. Through that which is self-limiting, they're reaching an unlimited. Through connecting to God, then they can draw God into their intellect. They can draw God into their understanding. They can draw God into their thought process and into their studies. There are those that study in order to be powerful. They study to know things. They study to be the one in charge. They study to be the head honcho or to know the right answer, which is great, but it's self-serving. And there are those who study because studying is a way of serving God. Studying is the only command is also beyond being a command, also an intellectual pursuit of God. And one's doing a lot with it. In essence, studying of Torah is complicated because what we're doing is we're mixing two separate things. We're mixing our intellect with our self-nullification. We're nullifying ourselves through our own self to God. In other words, intellect is a process of knowing oneself and challenging oneself and pushing oneself and trying to be as great as one can be to understand it. On the other hand, in truth, through study of Torah, we're trying to self-nullify ourselves. We're trying to push ourselves out of the way in order to understand. There's two people having an argument about a commentary on the Talmud, Rashi. One person said Rashi's obviously wrong, and they brought a series of questions on Rashi. And the person who was studying with said, if the study of Torah was just an intellectual pursuit, you could be right. But study of Torah is not just intellectual pursuit. In essence, it's completely not an intellectual pursuit. It's the connection of God. And since Rashi was more connected to God than I am, I have a choice of arguing with God and trying to connect to God on my own terms, or trying to understand what Rashi was trying to understand, connect to God on Rashi's terms, which maybe is a better connection. And he said, therefore, I'm going to negate all your questions by trying to understand what Rashi said. Now, it's also a logical pursuit. So if he couldn't answer Rashi's questions, he hasn't done anything. In other words, it has to make sense. So if someone asks a question and you can't come with an answer, then it's not right. But you can search deep within yourself and deep within Rashi until you find that path that he had, that path of an answer. They say the difference between Rishonim, earlier commentaries, and Achronim, later commentaries, is like those that they go into a dark room. And the earlier commentaries, when they went in a dark room, they wanted to know where the window was. They would turn on the light and they would see and they would go right to the window. Later commentaries couldn't find the light switch. They had to fill around the room until they found where the window was. So therefore, you see in earlier commentaries, they ask a question, they give an answer, and they don't have all the back and forth in the middle. They just have a question and an answer. Later commentaries, they ask a question, they give an answer, they ask a question on that answer, they give a new answer, they question and an answer, until finally they get to the answer. You're saying, well, why do you have to say it in 20 pages? Say it in 2. Say it in 2 lines. The question was this, and that's the answer. But the earlier commentaries saw things clearly. They saw things the way they were. Later commentaries didn't see things the way they were. For us, that's the same question. We jump into Torah and we're saying, is Torah a connection? Well, if Torah is a connection, how am I going to connect? What am I going to do to connect? Obviously, earlier commentaries have this stronger connection, so I want to connect. I want to understand what they were understanding. Later commentaries have a weaker connection, and obviously myself, I have a weakest connection. That's why there's no book written about me that people study, but that's just the process. Same thing with mitzvahs. When I go out and do a good deed, I know the example in the 12 steps or the 12 steps itself is an example of this by doing, when you help someone else out, when you do that 12-step work, when you're going for them, when someone calls you and I have time for them and I give to them, I go, look how great I am. That's not what people think. They think, oh wow, the person helped me in my recovery today. They were able to give me that support. But the focus there is so complete. It's very clear what it is. Do we look at mitzvos as burdens, as restrictions, as things that don't let me do things I want to do, or as potentials to connect, as possibilities, as ways to utilize my Jewish connection? I can connect to God through doing mitzvahs. When someone calls me up and I say, I have a chance to help my sobriety through talking to this person, they don't look at how great they call me. I mean, sometimes we do, but hopefully we don't. Oh, great, someone needs my help. Or, I'm so glad that came in right now because I really need that right now. We have a chance to do a mitzvah. Are we looking for what's in it for us, or are we looking for what the purpose of the mitzvah is? And I do want to separate the two separate points. I'm just correlating.
There's a fundamental difference between the two of those.
There is, which is?
Well, one of them is with recovery. You're taping this, I didn't realize that. So.
No, that's fine. Mine's not on, his is.
With recovery, the purpose of being here is because my alternative is death or institutions.
Right.
So because I want to avoid death or institutions and I've hit rock bottom, I'm going to do this. And by the way, if you're not an addict and you don't have to do this, you're crazy for coming here. Right. Nobody who's not there would ever do this. And we believe our way of living has advantages for all, but that doesn't mean that we go and say, hey, you should try this out, because you're a jerk and this will make your life better. It's only the people who have the alternative of recovery or death in institutions. With Judaism, there are many paths to have that connection to God. And in Judaism, we believe that God said, you are the group of people who are lucky enough or whatever to, if you want to call it that, to be obligated to this. And this is, the path that I'm choosing for you. But even as a Jew, I can say, there's a different path that I want to take to have a connection to God, and it doesn't have to be through the study of Gemara. So, not that negates everything that you said, but it's a different, it makes the approach different. Meaning, when you study Torah on Shavuos, because that's a path to connect to God, that's very nice. Whereas you're doing post-effort, because if you don't, you're going to die.
Right.
It's the same with Torah. Some Lamed, some Haim, we say Torah because it is the way of life. You may not see it like this, but it is really there, but it is there. In reality, when I'm not in Torah, when I'm not there, I'm dead.
I'm not dead.
I am. The same way with
Okay, but let's not get too far off point. But I do want to bring up a point, I think, if I understand correctly, is that first of all, we should never mix the two. By doing Torah mitzvahs, are we replacing our recovery program, or without it, are we completely as lost as our recovery program? That's not what I'm trying to entail. I'm trying to say, what I would like to say is that the purpose of the recovery program, when done right, we realize that what is available to us are ways of offering us a better life. We don't have to do it. Die, that's a fine option. Choose that option if we don't want to do that.
Right.
But it's like a suggested plan of recovery. But if you want to do it, this is what it entails. If you want to be happy, joyous, and free, you better answer your phone. If you don't, that's fine, don't answer your phone. But if you want to, and you appreciate what you want, this is what you'll do.
Right.
In Judaism, now we're not saying you're going to, the dying or not dying on spiritual framework and not spiritual framework, and the path to choose it, those are all options. But on the other hand, when we do study, and if we are choosing to take that path, we have to realize that it's not the knowledge that's going to help us. It's where that knowledge takes us. It's the purpose of the knowledge. In other words, the purpose of, a lot of people do study Gemara just for the sake of knowing it. To be able to walk in somewhere and say, I know more Gemara than you. That's great, but it's very self-serving.
Right.
The purpose of study is to move beyond oneself.
Well, I was in the yeshiva system for 20 years, and I never heard anybody say that.
Right. I agree. I'm saying there's many people that live with the idea that it is only about what I can attain.
It's about acquiring.
Yeah.
not
That's the thing. There's a lot of messages that seem very obvious that seem to be a secret for some reason. Like it's very obvious. Sensibly, it makes no sense. Why does it make me greater? I can study all my life, and I'll never be that person, or I don't know what I've accomplished. What's the point? So I know more than you. I'm a different person than you. I had a different potential than you.
Yeah, but in the yeshiva system, that is the goal.
Sure.
Study as much as you possibly can so you can acquire as much as you possibly can so that you can have as much as you can so that you can be as much as you can.
Which seems to be wrong. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Why would I give you more?
I'm saying it seems to be entirely wrong. The purpose of, the reason why we say a blessing on study of Torah, before we study Torah, is to say thank you, God, for giving us the Torah, is because we have to realize that it's God's Torah. It's not just a knowledge acquiring base and I know more and I have access to more. But you're right, that is completely, I went to the yeshiva system too, and that's what it was.
Most people misunderstand it, but it is what it is for. The same with the big book. Plenty of people they can stay sober without doing the step, and plenty of people may never did the step. And they are sober, they don't drink for many, many years. They don't have no sponsors, they don't work with no one, and they still, so it's not that. The fact that people do it does not preclude what they're doing is correct. Because Becky about tells us, we study harmonic assault for being able to do. Not we study so we'll be able to. Because it's a plenty of places. But one of them was Art and Martin. That also is knowledge is void. It's really empty. Because they're telling me that really knowledge for knowledge is irrelevant. In reality, knowledge, any knowledge, just to know anything, is not important one. Just to know it is totally idiotic. We study so many things in school, information that we never use. So for what? To annoy? What is the use? It's useless.
Sure. I agree. So that's the point. Well, that's the point Tanya is bringing out, which is a valid point because we all agree that the opposite is very much the reality. The reality is that those who know more, I should catch you up because you're looking like...
I'm trying to catch up.
Basically what exists is that those who study Torah, unfortunately where it takes them is that it becomes a competition who knows more. If you think about it, for example, if you go to 5 rabbis and you say, well, one rabbi happens to know more than the other 4 rabbis, he's probably a greater rabbi. It may be true, but it's not...
I noticed that on the online meeting. Go ahead.
But it's not necessarily what makes someone a greater person and puts them in...
Right.
As the Alter Rebbe used to wage his wars of, his students were students that had spiritual greatness, not physical attainment. Because just because someone's born in the home where not the right home isn't the right home, but for this situation, the right home where their parents were geniuses and their parents surrounded them by Torah study and that's all they knew, and they're ahead of the game as other people were in other areas, is that they accomplished more. It means that was spoon-fed to them. Accomplishment means if you could take both people and put them, switch shoes and see where they would have gone, that would be accomplishment. How much did you overcome your challenges in life? Where were your challenges? Those are things that we struggle with. But that's also the limitation of Torah, that Torah is so limiting in the fact that it requires one's own strengths. It's like saying if we looked at basketball by the fact of how great someone achieved or grew as opposed to how good they were at the sport, we'd have the worst team in sports because we wouldn't be good at carrying out to other teams, we'd just be good compared to ourselves. Wow, we improved since last year. We were able to make a three-point shot just instead of the free throw, but we still haven't won a single game because nobody cares. And same thing with Torah study. It's an intellectual pursuit. It's being able to answer questions, coming up with sharp, clever answers and good questions on one's neighbor. The Noda Yehuda was a great rabbi. And the Noda Yehuda had, when he became rabbi of his town, there were those who were against him, opposed to him being chosen as rabbi, which is typical. I mean, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, wars break out, the whole deal. And a series of them brought these very complex questions to the Noda Yehuda to answer. And they brought them as if they were real questions. In truth, they were made-up questions. And the purpose was to make a fool of him, to go around town saying, look, he answered this question wrong and that question wrong. He doesn't know the beginning of this, the beginning of that. But they were complex questions. So in order for like a common person who doesn't spend their whole day doing this, it would be like a doctor coming and saying, did you see how he read the thing wrong? And you're like, I don't know, what thing is that? That's an x-ray? Oh, it's an x-ray. Oh, he read it wrong? I don't know. Is there upside down, right? I don't know these things. I'm not an x-ray person. Look, it's completely upside down and see that blotch over there? And, So they asked these questions and he answered all of them right except for one. And they went around town making fun of him and saying that they should get rid of this rabbi and get the rabbi that they wanted. And the Noda Yehuda answered, he said, he wrote an answer, I guess, to the town, that he said, I'm not here to defend my honor, and if they want to remove me, that's perfectly fine. This is the town's decision. But I would like to bring out a point that when people ask real questions, real concerning questions, there's a gift given from above that the person they ask to will have the ability to answer the question. When someone comes with a true question, there's always a true answer provided because it's not fair to the person. If they do what they're supposed to do, they shouldn't receive their answer. He said when someone makes up a question, then it's just an intellectual prowess. It's just a fighting of powers. Who's more intellectually smart? He said by the very fact that I got this answer wrong shows it was not a real question. Because when someone comes with a real question, there's always a real answer provided. And you're right. Me, the Noda Yehuda, isn't that smart of a guy, so they stumped the Noda Yehuda. Had they asked the real question, though, I'm sure they would have received the real answer, because it's not fair for me to get in the way of the answer they needed to receive. That was his answer given. But it's a deep answer. The end of the day is that they lost, he stayed rabbi, and everything was okay there. He actually has a book on the Talmud, but the answer is a real answer. Like you're saying, many people study for the sake of knowing. And that seems false. That's not connecting to God. That's connecting to oneself in a deeper way. It's like doing good deeds. Doing good deeds for the sake of ourselves. Not that there's anything wrong with putting a name on the building. Many people say there's many good things of putting a name on the building. But is it like when I do that, I can't wait, my name's going to be there and this and that, and it's going to be big and prominent. Everyone should know that's me. Or did I put it there because that's, I was honoring my parents by putting their name there, or people should see, like me, and copy what I was doing, and I want to create more good in the world. Why are we doing these things? When we give charity, I saw a question once, when we give charity, do we give it loudly or do we give it quietly? Do we give it quietly because it's not for everyone else, it's just for ourselves. To give charity, this is something that we need to do, we need to give, so we give charity. We don't have to make a big thing out of it. And other people said we should make a big thing out of it because therefore people will see what we're doing and copy us and they'll also do it. But I never saw an opinion we should give charity, make a big noise out of it so everyone should realize how great we are, that we do good things.
You made me aware of that before when you said that, because I had asked. I always disliked people's names on everything, and this was a while ago. And
it's a good thing to put.
I never thought of it that way. I always thought it was so self-serving. Charities Anonymous, where do you put your name? I hate it, and I never thought of it like you could see that someone did something good and I could do something good. I never. It's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
I had a rabbi in my school. He said this once as a joke, but it stuck as a real statement. He said he could never get anyone to sponsor the toilet paper dispensers because who wants their name next to the toilet paper dispenser.
Up on top.
Yeah, which is a silly thing to say, but it rings so true. It's like, I only want my name in certain places. I wouldn't put it anywhere. But in truth...
Well, they want to put it in a prominent position.
Right.
You know.
But in truth, there's nothing wrong with putting someone's name somewhere. Because there's a lot of good to it. But the question is, what's the intent? And with all good deeds, that doesn't just apply to people with money. With all good deeds, what's the intent? Am I helping somebody so they should realize how they need me and I'm the most important person, I'm necessary to their lives? Or is this a chance for me to connect and to do something beyond myself and move a little bit beyond myself? Is this an opportunity or is this a hindrance? Is this a responsibility? And that's where chapter 5 is coming to define the difference. If I'm coming from my own thought, speech, and action, I'll never get to beyond. But if I'm trying to get to beyond, then these are the greatest tools I have. If I'm thinking of the beyond when I do something, if I'm thinking of the beyond when I'm studying, if I'm thinking of the beyond when I take action, then in truth, my thought, my speech, and action are permeated with godliness. If I'm thinking about myself while doing these things, then it's not going to get me where I need to go. It'll probably get me only to negative.
Is it that also then in relation to the beginning, the long way, the short way? Is he trying to make a connection with it?
That what?
That the long way, in a sandwich, I can study hard and study a lot, but it is really the long way because I'm not getting nowhere. And the short way, if I do it for the intention, even if I don't know as much, do it for the right intention, I will be getting somewhere.
I guess you could say that. I mean, in truth be told, what he's saying is that, I guess, but I mean,
I know
there's...
you bring the term to meditation and putting it to the letter, but I was thinking that maybe there's something was coming up to my mind.
I mean, you could say that the short way here would be that a lot of people study to know the right answer to things. Well, the long way is that that's not why I'm studying. That's not where I ever plan on going. I just am studying for the sake of studying. When I finish, I'll study again. When I finish that, I'll study it again. And if that's the only book I have, I'll keep studying because I'm not studying it for the knowledge. I'm studying it to go beyond. And therefore, while it's a long way, it's truthfully short because the second I start, I'm already on the right path. And again, I want to make a comparison, but I don't want to say that this is the truth. I've met two different types of book quoters to me. Some of them strike me as people that just want to prove to me they know the book. It's like, look, this is just reality. What do you mean? This is what the book is. It gives me, this is the way I live. And you can almost, I don't know if that's fair, but you can almost pick the two out. Because one is will always throw, I don't know, they'll always throw the quotes in, even when it isn't like, but the book says, and they go on like the book quoting, and it's, okay, now you know the book. But other people, it just comes out naturally. It's just part of who they are. It's like, I quote the book. This is what I do. I'll quote it anywhere. I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but I feel like, I don't know, that's just the feeling I get. You can pick me up on that. I'm just...
Also say a quote, I think it was also that said, I quote others because they could say what I want to say in a much better way. So if someone said something already that really give them the credit,
sure,
because already had originated in before. But yeah, but indeed, sometimes I can quote that, hey, I read a lot. If you don't know where that quote came from, that's you lost.
I mean, now, don't get me wrong, there's times when one should be able to, so to speak, flex their muscles in what they know. Sometimes you meet these people that don't know anything, and they come up to you and they're like, you don't know what you're talking about, and they start, blasphemizing in the name of things. And you're sitting there saying, it's not so much about me that you're attacking, it's that we're sitting in the room full of people and you're just saying the wrong thing. So then you flex your muscle. You say, listen, between you and me, this is what I know. I know a lot more than you, and this is only a tidbit of what I know, and you're completely wrong. But you're not flexing it for yourself again. Because you're flexing for yourself, it's self-service. You're flexing to prove a purpose. You're proving a point. What you're trying to prove is that that person doesn't know what they're talking about. The people in the room shouldn't be hindered by that person.
Right.
But I don't know. That's where it always comes back to intentions. You don't know why. I don't know why people... Sometimes people quote me in the big book, and it's the greatest thing I need to hear too at that point. It was like, I needed to hear that. That was the most solid thing I heard all day. And there's people, again, and it's not my place to judge them because they say that specifically in Judaism, many parts of Judaism focus on the positive and don't focus on the negative. They don't delve into the negative. Not in the like, oh, we're going to burn in hell and this is going to happen, that and that. But like, why does negativity exist? Now, obviously, I'm not talking about pain and suffering. But why does evil exist? Like, what's the purpose of evil? If you think about it, let's say the Torah says, one example, the Bible, the Torah says, not to eat certain foods. Wouldn't it be just simpler if they didn't exist? Like, let's wipe them off. And yet it says that the way we refine those things, the way we gain from those things is by not utilizing them, not gaining from them. In other words, certain things in life, the way we gain from them is by taking them in, and certain things in life we gain from them by not taking them in. But it does say that when there's an advantage of a Baal Teshuvah, or repentant, over someone who's righteous. And what the advantage is that a Baal Teshuvah, someone who repents. Let's say someone, for example, let's give an example of pork. The Torah says not to eat pork. Someone ate pork for multiple years, and then one day they woke up and they said, this is not something I want to be part of me anymore. When they negate that from them, they actually take that and they elevate it to holiness. They elevate that pork within them to spirituality and holiness. Now, it can't be a plan. It can't be like, I'm going to go eat pork for 4 years, and then I'm going to repent, and I'm going to be even better than everyone else because that doesn't work. But there are those who never ate pork and those who ate pork and elevated pork. There are those who never did anything wrong in life and those who did things wrong in life. And when someone does something wrong in life and then repents from what they did wrong, they bring out the good from within that evil, so to speak. They bring out the positivity from within that negativity. For example, experience. Experience is something that people only get from messing up. They don't get it when things go right. They get it when things go wrong. Does that mean that we want things to go? No, we don't want things to go wrong. People that go in there to get things wrong won't even get the experience out of the wrongness. But people that have things going wrong are gaining a positivity out of there. It doesn't make it right that it went wrong, but they're learning something out of it. They're gaining the positivity out of that. They're gaining the holiness out of that, and that holiness is greater than if it would have gone right, and that is the experience, the knowledge, the wisdom, the learning lessons that go along with it. And so too with all negativity. Negativity is something that cannot be accessed on purpose in any way, shape, or form. But it could be accessed afterwards. In a wake-up, in a shape-up, in a coming back sort of way. And to me, the example within the program is something that I've heard a lot. People say, it's not something that I ever wanted to be in. And people always say it's a blessing and I can't understand that. But now today I do. And what is that? It's that afterwards, all that pain, or not pain, but all that process that we went through, we're finding a positivity within. We're finding a depth within. We're finding new parts of who we are. And it's not something we could have done without it. It's not something we could have attained, achieved, experienced without it. We never would have been here. And that is the greatness, so to speak, of the negativity. It's explained, we explained this once before. There's light and there's darkness. And we say that light is greater than darkness, which is in truth wrong. Because light is exactly what we see. Darkness is not. Whenever you see something for what it is, you saw exactly what it is. Darkness is so great it can't be revealed. Light is the revealed part of God. Darkness is the concealed part of God. It's too great to be revealed. And there's two ways to deal with darkness. One way is to negate it, to push it away, not to do it, which works. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go down that path, which works. It's a way of relating. The other way is not advised. We don't jump into it and do it. But when we have done it, to change it over, to bring out that darkness into light, to reveal even the unrevealed parts of God. And again, it falls back to that same example of the program. In other words, there are those who never screw up with certain things. They never fall down that path. They never end up in these situations. Fine. So they've got the revealed part of God. They got the light. They've got certain levels of spirituality that they relate to, but it's never a spirituality that their life depended on. So how alive is that to them? And then there are those who went to utter depths. They were in the darkness. No other way to put it. Dark was so prevailing, as it says by the plague of darkness. It was tangible. It was touchable. At times you couldn't move in it. That is darkness. And from that darkness, they found a new light. They found a depth of light that isn't revealed. And they revealed it. They brought it to the fore. And this is, again, the difference of the categories. So we have the light. We have the doing the right, which is a great thing. Then we have the middle ground, which we have to bring about the right decisions in areas where it's hard. It's not so clear. And then, for example, a lot of us, we have to make boundaries with our parents or with our kids or with our spouses. And how does that feel right? We're not respecting them. But when we speak to someone, we find out how that is right. We have to do the right things in the right situations. And then we have the wrong. And sometimes we've done the wrong, but now we're changing over the wrong to bring out the right from within it. And by doing, then the question comes, so shouldn't we just keep doing wrong until we have the greatest right? Because once we've done that, why should we go back to the other? And once went skydiving, and the problem with going skydiving is that once you go skydiving, why would you ever go on a roller coaster again? They're all boring. Once you've done wrong and you brought about that greatness of a light, why would you ever do right again? Just do wrong. It works. And then you'll get a new bottom and a new high, and it'll be great. High is in a spiritual high. But once we've done wrong, we've changed over that wrong into right, we can apply that depth of light to the light itself, to the right itself. In other words, then we start doing good. We're doing good in the same way that we've changed over the wrong. We're doing the neutral in the same passion that we found the good from the wrong. We're applying it to everything in our lives. That's what we're doing. In other words, when we're doing the positive and the easy stuff that we know we should be doing, we're doing it in a way that just as passionate as when we were trying to repent from certain things. We were trying to change over certain character traits, because now it's part of who we are. And therefore, that's the advantage of a Baal Teshuvah over someone who's righteous, of a repentant over someone who's righteous, because it applies to every part of who they are. They've changed over their being, which is a great, great thing. They've taken a part of God that's unrevealed and revealed it, as opposed to an already revealed thing.